Today, we're diving into a huge shift in how we learn. Moving beyond just memorizing facts to actually experiencing them. Let's jump right in.
No, really, think about it for a second. All those dates, those names, those big events you crammed for the final exam, where did all that information actually go? If you're like me, it probably just vanished, pretty much the second you handed in the test.
And this diagram right here, it just nails the old traditional way of learning. We call it passive learning. Information goes in one ear, sticks around in short-term memory, just long enough to pass a test, and then, poof, it's gone. It's like a temporary transaction, not real learning.
See, the whole system is kind of built on a shaky idea. When education is just about listening and memorizing, it's not really about learning anymore, is it? It just becomes about how well you can perform on a test. We're not teaching students how to think. We're just teaching them how to pass.
And this approach turns students into what one study calls passive memorizers. I mean, it makes sense, right? They're not building up skills like critical thinking or problem solving. They're just mastering a short-term memory game that, let's be honest, doesn't have a whole lot to do with the real world.
But what if we could flip that script entirely? Well, there's a whole new approach, and it's powered by some seriously incredible technology that turns students from a passive audience into active participants in their own education.
Okay, so at the heart of this whole revolution is this idea called spatial computing. The easiest way to think about it is like a bridge that connects our physical world with the digital world. It's really an umbrella term for all these technologies that merge those two realities, creating totally new ways to interact with information.
This spectrum here does a great job of laying it all out. So on one end, you've got augmented reality, or AR. That's when you're adding digital stuff on top of the real world. Like a filter on your phone. Then, on the complete other end, you have virtual reality, or VR, which totally transports you to a whole new digitally created world.
Now, let's compare this to that first diagram we saw, the one with the discarded info. When we start engaging more of our senses, both sight and sound, our brains just process things differently. The information doesn't just sit there waiting for a test. It gets into our working memory, and that's where we start building real, lasting skills.
So the theory sounds great, but what about the results? While the data we're seeing on immersive learning is, honestly, it's pretty staggering. The outcomes are really remarkable. Get this. Research from Engage XR shows that by totally immersing students, by getting all their senses involved, virtual reality can boost how much they remember by up to 75%. That's a huge number. It's because our brains can create these much richer, more detailed mental maps of what we're learning.
And we're not just talking about remembering more facts. Check this out. At the University of South Carolina, they put VR in their intro biology labs. The result? A 90% drop in D grades and a 65% drop in F grades. I mean, those are absolutely transformational numbers.
And it goes beyond just grades. We're talking about genuine passion. Another report found that 78% of teachers saw a major spike in their students' motivation after they brought in these kinds of learning tools. When kids are actually excited to learn, the results just speak for themselves.
The data is one thing, but the real power of this tech is how it connects with us on a human level. Let's look at this incredibly powerful case study from Beirut, where this kind of learning became a tool for healing and for rebuilding a community's spirit.
So, after that devastating port explosion in Beirut back in 2020, a really special project from Beirut Arab University set out to do more than just rebuild buildings. The goal was to help children process this immense trauma and reconnect with a cultural heritage that had been shattered in an instant. And what's so fascinating is that the project didn't start with high-tech gadgets. It started with something you can hold. The kids created these beautiful, detailed physical models of historic buildings, which let them physically touch and reconnect with the history that had been ripped away. From that physical starting point, the project took a huge leap forward. They started making 3D virtual models of landmarks that were destroyed, like the old Little Saray government building and the iconic Rivoli cinema, and then used technology to place them right back where they once stood. This whole thing was about so much more than just seeing pictures of old buildings. It was about feeling history. And this quote from the study just says it all. The goal was for a new generation to understand what it felt like to be there, the struggles, the joy, and the shared responsibility that comes with the collective memory.
And this tech isn't just for looking at the distant past. It can bring recent history to life, too. It can let a new generation virtually stand in the middle of these powerful moments of national unity, like the huge demonstrations in Martyr Square in 2019, and feel that energy of a shared identity.
So what we've seen here,
whether it's in classroom data or on the streets of Beirut, is a really fundamental shift in what it means to learn. This right here, this is the model we're leaving behind. A system that just pours information into students, knowing that it's almost certainly going to be forgotten the moment the test is done.
And this is our future. A new model where real engagement leads to deep understanding, and where education isn't about memorizing, it's about building skills that last a lifetime. And that's really the biggest takeaway here. Immersive technology completely changes the student's role. They're no longer just a passive member of an audience. They are an active, engaged participant in their own discovery. Which brings us to a pretty deep question for the future, doesn't it? I mean, when you can literally stand in the Roman Colosseum during your history lesson, or walk the streets of a city's past, what does the very idea of a classroom even mean anymore?